Afternoon, everybody. It's great to see you. I've got to put my little, I got it. Yep, we're recording. There we go. Um, we've had a long day already. I've been teasing Scott. He's done multiple presentations. We've had a great board of trustees meeting this morning, and I want to thank you all for your participation in this very important session as we continue to talk about enrollment and its impact. So the plan for today is that we're going to sort of first and foremost thank Chairman Campbell, who's with us from our Board of Trustees. I don't know if any other Board of Trustees have climbed on. They had a 2+ hour meeting this morning. I don't know, maybe they're all meetinged out by the end of the day. But I think that they have a taste of where we are in terms of enrollment in a very realistic fashion. And that's really what we want to talk about today is there has been some extraordinary work that's been done here by a number of teams at Middlesex, all under sort of the purview of the enrollment working group that meets regularly to really do the best that we can in challenging times to manage our enrollment. And there's more complications to all of that than ever before, as all of you know, the issues of online teaching, hybrid, HyFlix, the schedule, the complications based on some of the way we are going about sort of marketing to our folks, the 8-week versus the 15-week, a lot of challenging things that we've overtaken over the course of time. And I think we have some real clear opportunity to really celebrate the great work that we've done, the creative things that are happening, but also to hear from all of you. It's been a while since we've had an intense conversation about our credit count, the students that we're serving, not only the great work that's going on, but the challenges that we have ahead as the institution, and you'll see by the slides today, has significantly shrunk in its student population over the last few years. I also want to thank our student trustee. Dari is with us. Dari, always great to have you as part of this conversation. So the presentation today will be from, I'm going to turn it over to Arlene first to talk a little bit about some of the national trends of what's happening in terms of enrollment, what we know, what other four-year institutions and community colleges are suffering through along with us, so that we feel like we've got a context and the fact that we can feel like we're comforted that we are not in this tremendous challenging period of time alone. And then Scott is going to give you a lot of detailed information about where we are in the semester, our credit count. And then I'm going to make a couple of comments about how that is tied to budget and our budget process going forward for this year. And then we're going to open it up to comment. So hopefully you'll be able to stay with us and ask your questions, give us your creative ideas, share with us your thoughts. So again, thank you for participating. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Arlene to talk about the national trends.
Thank you so much, Phil. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you all here. We're going to just jump right in and talk about a topic that we have been talking about for a while, and just taking a nice deep dive both nationally and a much deeper dive, which Scott will provide locally, what Middlesex has been doing. We've all talked about the enrollment decline that's been happening post-COVID, and all schools, many schools, I should say, started to experience a bit of decline just before COVID. But certainly COVID accelerated, precipitated a major decline in student enrollment. I'm just going to give you national data so that you can get a sense of big picture what's happening across the country, to Phil's point that we are not alone in this. And then Scott could talk about the great work that's being done here, and you can see the difference between what's happening nationally and what's happening locally. So as I said, pre-COVID, and this is from the National Clearinghouse Center, pre-COVID, enrollments were starting to decline. We had, the baby boom from the 80s going through. We've talked about high school students, the high school population lessening, getting smaller, and certainly COVID accelerated for many regions in the country, but especially New England, accelerated that decline. Nationally, in the spring of 2020, compared to the spring of 2020, we've lost over 1.3 million college-going students. Now that's national. private, public, all sectors, four-year schools, community colleges. Specific to community colleges nationally, it was just over 800,000 students who stopped out from attending their schools. So you see that nationally, this is something all the community colleges have been encountering. And the reasons for the decline are many, but certainly we've heard some of the reasons that some of our students have had to stop out post-COVID. Finances. There were many industries that were very hard hit by COVID. And perhaps our students lost their jobs. Perhaps they're caretaking for someone. Perhaps they themselves contracted COVID and had to stop for a while and recover, or maybe experiencing the effects of a long-term COVID. So we've experienced this. We have seen this. And what's happening now nationally is the decline is continuing. It's over 14% of our college-going population has stopped out since COVID. It has continued, the decline has continued, but it has slowed down a bit. So some students are coming back little by little. You might see some increases between spring of 21 and spring of 22, but just remember, you're comparing this semester, a current semester, to a semester post-COVID. If you compare it pre-COVID, very few schools are hitting the mark of the pre-COVID numbers, working towards it, but not there yet. And so we are looking at a time when students are, and you probably a lot of these comments will resonate with you. They want to continue to get a credential, but they might not be able to do a full degree now. Most of our students go part-time. They're continuing to go part-time. Some of us have had conversations that some of the four-year schools might be, what we call mission creep, kind of enrolling and trying to get some of our students who traditionally would have enrolled in a community college. So it's a difficult climate out there with regards to enrollment. But you'll see, when you hear from Scott, you'll see that some incredible work, as you know, is being done to help stabilize Middlesex when you compare it to the national trends. So we are looking at different populations of students, not simply relying on the the high school age student. We're looking at older students who've gotten some credits. There are many students within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, some older adults who may have started college back when they were 18 or 19, took a class or two and then stopped out, who are interested in coming back. We are looking at what we do with shorter terms, with micro-credentials, really trying to address the situation that for many of our students, the traditional attendance of full-time is not available, even sometimes part-time is not available. Part-time with the idea of going for a full degree or a full credential and might need to be shortened. So what has happened nationally has been happening here at Middlesex, but I think what you see from Scott is we have implemented a lot of these practices, a lot of these initiatives to stop that decline. So Scott, can you share with us a little bit of what you've been working on with many teams here at Middlesex to make sure that we stabilize our enrollment?
I certainly can. Thank you, Arlene. Let me just share my screen. And can everyone see that? Good. Thumbs up. Excellent. All right. So this afternoon, we want to talk about the spring enrollment, all the great work that has been taking place, some of the challenges that we face, again, enrollments, headcount, retention, and then what we'll do looking forward in terms of other enrollment efforts. So our current enrollment as of this morning is 86.3% of our headcount, much higher than it was this time last year in our goals. Our credit goal to hit credit goal, 95%, 95% of 43,000. The daily numbers on the daily enrollment report, the headcount is actually plus 7.8% and credits 2.1% compared to this time last year. This is something that we've noticed just throughout this semester, that we've been slightly on the plus side in both headcount and credits starting in the middle of December. And again, it's a lot of great work that's been done by a lot of great staff here at the college. This snapshot here is an actual projection to goal for fiscal year 23. As you can tell, the summer actuals, 6,027 credits, we actually did 20.5% above goal, and a little bit short, 53,413, 91.7% for fall. Those are the actuals. Now the projected for spring, even though we have our goal of 43,000, is 41,800. This time last year, we did about 41,600. That was at the very, very end of the semester. So we still, at the very beginning of the semester, we are still in add drop. We'll continue that today and tomorrow. We will enroll our dual enrollment students. We have mini semester 2 to look forward to and enroll those students all the way up until March 27th. So activity in terms of enrolling students will continue. The summer goal is 7,000 credits projected at 5,500. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Overall goal to budget. So our budget's based on 110,000 credits for this fiscal year, projected 106,740,000, or 97% of that goal. All right, so similar to the fall semester, we targeted the same populations. We targeted new students. We targeted returning students who hadn't been with us in more than 2 years. We targeted students who submitted a FAFSA, but hadn't registered, and vice versa. We reached out to populations that were close to graduating. But this semester, we focused on our continuing students. By doing so, we let them know that it was time to register. We sent out multiple communications each and every single week to our current students, these students that were here in the fall and in the spring. And we did this by sending them numerous emails, numerous phone calls, numerous text messages. We even sent them a letter, just letting them know who their advisor was. Please meet with their advisor before they left for the fall semester. We kept our regularly scheduled registration appointments. This is done by advising Brian and his team, Jillian and her team, admissions, placement as well. Those students continued on taking those or going to those registration appointments. But what I want to get back at is what we did in fall. What we had in fall was a quick registration session, which allows students to come on campus on certain days, which worked out extremely well. We decided not to do that and not to even call it that. We just called it drop-in. Drop-in on campus. We opened up the college the entire month of January, even before Christmas. We had the virtual sessions running simultaneously at the same time. And staff did a great job of working with students here on campus and in these virtual sessions. Another big thing that I want to point out here is this is an unpopular ask. We did do this. We asked all the department managers within enrollment services to ask their staff to pause their telework for the entire month of January. And they did so willingly. They know how important it is to support our students, whether they're in the virtual sessions here on campus, and they did so without reservation. They just knew it was an all hands on deck type of approach. And Brian and his team very much followed suit. He said he would join us, and we did that as well, or he did that as well. This is an enrollment trend of 7 years, spring enrollment. So if we go back to spring of 2017, we'll see that we beat our goal by 2.5%. As we look forward, like Arlene said, we already knew we were in a downward trend that she had mentioned baby boomers, high school feeders were trending downward. Enrollments were declining. And you can see that in spring of 18, 19, and 20. We were prepared to deal with this. Then COVID. Nobody asked for it. it came. We lost right there 5.5% from spring of 20 to spring of 2021. But as you look at spring of 2022 and where we are today, we implemented the COVID vaccine mandate. We didn't know what to expect. Students applied by the mandate. There were some students that didn't want to come on campus, and we offered them online classes. There were very few students that we did outreach that had registered for on-campus classes that we had to drop. Minimal amount of that. Same with this semester as well. But as you can look here, we're at 95% of goal. Higher than we were this time last year, overall at 92.5%. So I really believe that the great work that everyone has done, we're optimistic that potentially we're turning a corner and that enrollment will continue to increase as we progress through other semesters. Retention rates. Retention rates is an interesting story. So back in fall of 2016, all the way to today, you can see at the very, very top, in the blue bars, is the percentage of students that actually re-enrolled, and then the students down at the bottom that did not re-enroll. So this trend starts out above 66%. You can see 65%, and then we see that outlier right around COVID, 59%, but we've come back down to about 63%. There's still a lot of challenges there, a lot of work. Did not return down at the bottom, 34%, pretty steady, 35, 35, 37, it creeped up, 41% because of COVID, and then we've settled back down 37%. So there's some opportunities there that we can talk about in how to retain our students. Here's a 20-year enrollment trend. 20-year enrollment trend of the entire academic year, going back to academic year 2003, 2004. What this tells, so this tells us a story. 20 years ago, we were a college of about 150,000 credits, and that carried on until the Great Recession hit. As you can see, the trend in around academic year 09, 10, certainly 10 and 11, we trend upward. 160,000 plus, 181,000. We peaked at close to 182,000 credits for that academic year. As the economy started to recover, we saw the downward trend. We also knew we were in declining high school population, so that decline continued. Go further down to academic year 2019 and 20, and what happened? COVID hit. So we went from 135,000 credits down to 115 and change, 108, now projected at 107.6. So is it reasonable to say that we can recover quickly to pre-COVID numbers? This chart here, this is some information that Eileen had shared with me. She got from her colleagues here. All I want to point out is that during the toughest times of declining enrollment, Middlesex minimized the loss over these 10 years. And that's what that highlighted row is Middlesex trend there. We came in at minus 27.6%, but we were the number one out of the 15 community colleges in the Commonwealth that had minimized their loss. So this tells us a lot of things in the sense that, legacy of Middlesex Community College is certainly within my hands, and I'm sure it's in all of your hands as well. As we move forward, looking forward, we're going to be launching new micro-credentials. These credentials were researched by our academic deans. They met with advisory boards out in the community. They identified certain needs within the workforce. So students can take one of two paths. So if we have a new student to come in, can apply for a micro-credential, earn that micro-credential, and then go out into the workforce. A student could come in and work on a micro-credential, follow a pathway that could lead them to a certificate and or an associate's degree, which will lead them back into the workforce or their choice to a four-year institution. So we will be launching these mini semester 2 of this semester. And again, looking beyond, we're going to continue to register our dual enrollment students, mini semester 2 up until March 27th. We talked about micro-credentials. We're certainly going to continue to promote an advanced learn and earn model for all of our programs, all of our students. Disaggregate student populations. Arlene talked a little bit about those. We'll take a deeper dive into what our international students are, what their needs, foreign students, especially adult learners. Paying attention to retention, we'll reassess all of our enrollment plans, our outreach plans, even focus on certain populations such as our dual enrollment. We have a large dual enrollment population. Our matriculation rate is approximately 24%. So what can we do to entice those students to actually start with Middlesex? And then lastly, refine our enrollment forecast model. So take a closer look at all of the trends that we just talked about in terms of populations, certain types of programs. And we've been having some internal conversations just about the economy. So keeping an eye on the economy, especially the unemployment rate and certainly inflation. So those are our opportunities. And this is a really, really a big thank you to everybody that's listed here, the enrollment working group, all these divisions, all these departments have worked cohesively to make sure that we are where we are with our enrollments and continue to thrive and help support our students moving forward. So thank you. And I guess Beth will open it for questions.
Before we open it up for questions, can you flip back to that last enrollment effort slide? Because I want to talk a little more detail about sort of from a vision point of view, the work that we need to do ahead and tie that into what we're doing with the strategic plan. Talk a moment about budget, the one right before this slide. That one, perfect, thank you. Let's talk a little more detail in each of these areas and talk about why each of these areas is so important to the work of the college going ahead. Then I want to just sort of reference budget. This is not a budget presentation. Certainly we can go into some detail, but I do want to remind you about a simple calculus that will give you a sense of what the difference between 110 and 107, will mean for the college and how we are going to handle that so that people feel secure. First and foremost, I want to thank all of the people that were on the last slide. This has been a college-wide effort. Many years ago, it feels like 9 or 10 years ago when we developed the enrollment working group. It was a small and mighty group that got together to decide how we were going to help work with this. But this is one of those very unique groups that works together. It includes a cross-section of people from across the college, including faculty, participation from SOTL, et cetera. And I think that it is there that a lot of the tremendous work has been done that really has mitigated a lot of this. I think I'm very proud when we established the enrollment working group and all of the work that's gone into it, and the fact that that group continues to meet to this day and collaborates to make sure that we are doing the best we can to manage the enrollment. And Scott, I want to thank you and others for your leadership, both in these divisions and the departments. Just a real tremendous effort. We go back to that last slide about efforts. There's been oftentimes controversy about dual enrollment students. And I think what we're talking a lot about now is the fact that not all credits are created equal. And I've told you that many times before. The early college work really provides money back from the state to those early college programs. So the expansion of early college is really important because the high schools are compensated on a per student basis and the college is compensated on a per student basis. It's at a significant reduction. We are moving that up to the $150 per credit mark. And it came from about 106 and has moved to 108. And so it's moving its way towards parity for that discounted rate. But I will tell you that in that effort in and of itself, if we pulled all of our dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment credits out separately and articulated that effort, even though there's a number of people that are on the Zoom that are engaged in that work and their salaries, the bottom line is that is still a money-making enterprise for the institution. Many institutions across this state have a different model of dual enrollment, where the institution is only receiving $40,000 in state money, and they are swallowing the rest of that. At Quinn Sig, I just heard about a $260,000 deficit based on dual enrollment. I hear from other presidents about sort of what it costs them to run dual enrollment and concurrent, because they're not using a concurrent enrollment model. So for all the controversy, the business model that was created, the way we've approached this, was very much in tune with the fact that we have not lost money on this effort. Even though these students are paying less per credit, they have advanced our ability to really meet our budgetary concerns here at the college. Not to the tune of the approximately $252 average per credit that other students pay, but certainly when we look at the expenses connected to that program, it's a business model that works and in many ways is the envy of a lot of other folks. So I'm just pointing that out, that those dual enrollment students are incredibly important to us. Scott's point about being able to be more refined in our budget work is work that I've been doing with our new CFO, Allison Chambers, to talk about how we make projections so that with not all credits being equal, how do we project in different credit categories? Students who are international students who pay more, students who, the waivers that we actually do, all of that to get to a more granular level so we understand how this contributes to the budget, because there's been tremendous growth in some areas, and certainly the dual enrollment area has been growth. But I want to assure all of you that that has been for us a money-making enterprise. So the work that's been done by the deans, by the department chairs, by the faculty mentors, by the particular area, the K through 16 partnership area that has run that, has been extraordinary work. It has been challenging work. The concurrent enrollment model is one that has proven itself to work for us at the institution. And so I wanted to make sure that those will be part of our enrollment efforts going forward. The second one I wanted to mention is that the deans and the vice president have done remarkable work along with the registration in other areas to talk about the importance of this new quarter model. Like, that's what mini-mesters is. It's a quarter system, right? It takes and you watch the movement on our own schedule from the 15-week schedule to the mini-mester model. And in fact, I've been in many national conferences and had lots of conversations with the Educational Advisory Board. There are some colleges that have moved pretty dramatically, sometimes fully, to a quarter model based on the fact that we know that students struggle over the course of 15 weeks to complete their work. Now, we know that not everything academically, supposedly, can be offered in an 8-week or 7.5-week format, but I think we've proven that a great deal can. And in fact, I want to thank the deans and the department chairs for moving into this mini-mester model, because that's where the growth has been in terms of what students choose. So that growth potential continues to be part of what we have to look at in the schedule and the academic mix at the college in order to attract and retain students. In fact, it will be an important way for us to think about some of our complete academic programs and to pilot some academic programs just completely in that format. So I want to say that there's a lot of experimentation going on, a lot of really good thinking about the schedule post-COVID, and it's a very complicated schedule. So hats off to department chairs, deans, and faculty who've been part of that effort. The micro-credentials is part of a discussion that's really important with Learn and Earn. It kind of goes directly with the advancing the Learn and Earn model. I very much want us to be the institution that students come to, knowing that in the course of their time with us, that they could connect to a job that they would be able to make a living wage. So many of our students are part-time. They are already working multiple jobs. We may want to wish that away, but it's not going away. That's not the reality of the marketplace. That's not the reality for our students. So we've done a very good job of maintaining the number of students who are actually fully enrolled at 12 or 15 credits. But we also need to attend to this very emerging and continuing market of part-time students who are essential to us, right? They are in many ways, our bread and butter. So the idea of bemoaning that people do 6 or 9 credits is not necessarily going to be the wave of the future. And if we can identify ways that students are ready to go into the workforce after a certain number of credits, like the micro-credentials have done, and if we can expand and do the work that we've done with Learn and Earn, not only in biotech, but in other areas, my goal is that our next Title III grant will be about Learn and Earn across the curriculum. How is it that students can come to Middlesex Community College and know that they will be able to be engaged in a job in an apprenticeship model, and that employer and those employers will support their continued education. So it's not a dead-end job, but it's an opportunity to advance themselves to a certificate, associate's degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, and beyond. And we've already proven that in one area. And I'm grateful to the SGP partnership that we had for when I first went out and pitched $750,000, and now we have another $1 million from the 1-8 Foundation that really is creating the Office of Career Integrated Learning. And we have a number of new staff that are going to be working on that. And many of you are in the process of thinking about or developing departmental opportunities to be engaged in Learn and Earn model. Those two pieces fit together. They fit with the mini-master registration. So a lot of this stuff is all interwoven in the way we can really create the most attractive schedule, the most attractive experience for our students and for families that are looking for affordable education and a real opportunity to students. All you need to do is look at the growth and the international dominance of Northeastern University to know that there is something to be said for proving that you can give students a job as they're working through their education. So I think it's something for us to think about. It's really important for us to advance. And I appreciate all the interest in the work that's been done around Learn and Earn and the Office of Career Integrated Learning. We will need to continue at this institution to disaggregate student populations on many levels. We've started to do it across the college in terms of the work that we're doing with Achieving the Dream. And we have learned a great deal about the Black, Brown, our Asian students, the students that we are losing because we are not attending to their needs and creating the sense of belonging that needs to happen at the institution for their retention. So closing those opportunity gaps is going to be essential to the forward-thinking movement of the college and also to our future. We need to continue to do that. Our students of color are now the majority of our students at 52%, and that will continue to grow. We need to also salute all the work that's been done by faculty, the folks that are working in the Faculty Academy with Paul Hernandez and the Student Affairs Academy, the folks out of SOTL who have done extraordinary work in the 100% retention model. There are efforts across this institution that really have been focused on retaining our students, and every single person at this institution plays a role in that. But faculty are central to it because they have the most time with students and because they are the closest to our students. The faculty who have engaged in numerous professional development elements to do and impact retention are the key to our future. That connection with those students, that ability to convince them they need to complete their degree, and of course, on top of that, the additional work that's been done in advising, in enrollment management, and most importantly, the work that's been done most recently with our success dollars. So we have had some real success with success, that's kind of ridiculous to say, But the money that we've received from the legislature to create TRIO-like programs for our students of color and our LGBTQ populations have made a huge difference at this institution. And all of the results are very heartening to be able to go back to the legislature for additional funding for that. And the presidents have vowed that we will continue to do that. The last is, I think we all need to be looking at budget and forecasting to be able to be more refined about the way we approach how we use our money. We have become a very lean institution and lean organization. We have done that because we are serving fewer students. Fewer students doesn't always mean fewer faculty and staff. And in fact, we've done a pretty good job of maintaining a balance in all of this and been very, very diligent about the number of positions we add. Because of that, when we have these small blips in enrollment where we predict 110,000 credits and we only reach 107,000 credits, I want to be clear with all of you. You do not need to panic about your jobs or the stability of this institution. We are more financially stable right now than we have been in a very long time. That's because we got tremendous support from the federal government with HERF dollars. Although we didn't use them for our operational budget, we used them judiciously. We have been attracting more grant money, more state and federal grants than ever before. More private foundations are investing in Middlesex Community College. And all of that is part of a complicated rubric that we have to identify to create better projections to make sure that everyone is secure and that we can continue to add the faculty and staff that we need to do to be able to continue the institution to be an excellent institution. So I just wanted to make sure that you know that these enrollment efforts are part of the college's strategic plan. They are part of the vision of the college of who we are and what we will become. The idea that we can move more rapidly towards increased enrollment was something we thought was going to be fairly easy post-pandemic. And what we've learned is it is a far more complicated set of circumstances that have really impacted our enrollment here and that's impacting enrollment nationally, along with the whole conversation about the value of higher education today, which is why the learn and earn and micro-credential models is so important. So with that, I would just leave it you to say, I would remind you that even in a small budget shortfall, that for every 1,000 credits that we are down, you multiply that by the average of $252,000. So let's say we're down 4,000, right? That tells you that we're going to need, that we've got $1 million shortfall. So there are shortfalls that we are dealing with, but we have created enough budget buffers in unrestricted accounts to be able to account for all of that and to make sure that all of the work that you are all doing, the extraordinary work here at the college, continues. So Beth, I think at that point, we're open for the free-for-all of conversation, comments, thoughts, creative ideas, questions, and I got a number of really talented people on the line to help me answer those. But Scott, thank you very much. And Arlene, to both of you for a very thorough examination of where we are with enrollment, to be thought-provoking about what we're doing to really face those challenges in the future. And I'm looking forward to the conversation ahead.
Thank you, Phil. As he mentioned, chat is now open. You are invited to raise your hand, unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can type it into chat and I will read it aloud to the Zoom.
I also want to welcome Trustee Cheryl Howard, along with the other trustees that I recognized earlier that it was just great to have you with us today. I know you have questions or thoughts. I know that some of you have those questions and thoughts at the water coolers or in the bathroom or in your own department meetings. That's what critical conversations are for, is for us to discuss this together as an institution as we move forward. Challenge, complain, vent, or simply offer some really great suggestions about some things we may not have thought about as we move forward.
There are a lot of us on this call, so if you would like to raise your hand and speak, if you could actually use the emoji so that I can see it pop up on my screen, that would be helpful.
Wow. I don't know, Scott, you silenced the crowd. Jordana, thank you for jumping in.
I'll be brave. As we move back towards, a different way of being together with students on campus and supporting them, at what point do we think about, well, in the case of the library, about expanding service hours? Right now we're 8:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday with some online evening and weekend. And I know that there are students clamoring for longer day or weekend hours. And at what point do we start a bigger conversation, that because that really impacts budget?
Yeah, it's a great question.
And
I think
it impacts more than the library too. I'm sure there's other places that have cut their hours.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, it is now, as we begin to see more and more people back on campus, as the schedule continues to have more face-to-face and hybrid and high flex opportunities, we're going to see more students, right, on both campuses. And that's very exciting. In fact, the energy for the Ask Me tables and booths and all the work that everyone has been doing has been incredible. What I would say is that's going to take some time for us to figure out. And the best way for us to figure that out is really for us to really assess the traffic. I mean, I know that the library's done a remarkable job in the past of identifying the numbers of students that are using the facility on a regular basis. I think it's important maybe to do some informal surveys, Jordana, as you have people that are coming through and ask the question, when is the time that you would like to see the library open that it is not open? And see, so surveys of students without over surveying them, but do it locally in a way that we're not sending out a massive survey to 7,000 students, but that you are talking to the people who are using the facility. And then at that point, you can do a survey about the students who may not be using the facility and get a better answer. But I think it's a matter of experimentation within budgetary confinement and a conversation. So if you're beginning to see that you're seeing more students at particular times, the other thing is an examination of like the afternoon and the evening schedule, which has changed quite a bit, and the disaggregation of that schedule. I mean, which we've tried to do a great deal, like how many online courses are being run at particular times. But the one thing I will say about the library and your hours is, as we well know, it's one of those services that does not close. You have tremendous online options with the resources in the library. You guys have really mustered through the pandemic and really have created sort of the best. But I think the question going forward is, how do we experiment with expanding some of those hours in a way that's informed by data? And if we can do that, that's going to be very easy for you to articulate the kind of support that you need to expand those hours.
Thank you, Jordana. Phil, I do have a question that came in through chat from Tracy Estabrook. Have we ever considered adding housing to accommodate full-time students and in the process raise funds?
It's a great, one of the things that I've joked about many times about student housing is for those of us that worked at four-year institutions or were RAs or hall directors, that question kind of gives me the shakes every once in a while. We have dipped our toe in the water with that in the partnership that we have with UMass Lowell, and the opportunity to use the residences at the Inn and Conference Center and the beds that are available has been a partnership that we've explored for those students who are in the reserve placement program that are with us for a semester and then are going to go on to UMass Lowell. The opportunity to expand that program in a number of programmatic areas is something that I talked to Chancellor Julie Chen about. I think it has to be targeted in terms of the programs that we want to really address. I mean, I've had that great conversation with Karen Oster about, we have, a remarkable theater and performing arts, music. We've got remarkable programs, and there are people from around the state that have tremendous talent. If we had a place for them to live, they might come to Middlesex rather than going somewhere else. that's all stuff that is really worth discussing. The idea of developing at this time our own residence hall would be a requirement through the Department of Capital Asset Management. And at a time when we're doing a facilities master plan, it's a really good question for us to ask. What are the costs and what are the benefits of being able to have residents on our campus? And I think there's some community colleges that have dabbled with this. I know we talked about it a great deal on the Cape, where there was going to be significant decline in enrollment as one of the ways to attract people to an area that's beautiful, and the opportunity to be able to live there and go to school would make sense. The thing is, I think people underestimate the cost and the liability behind residents and residence halls and the kind of staff that is really required to be able to be successful. So the model that we currently have with UMass Lowell is a good model in the sense that we utilize and work with them from the point of view that we share students. And if we can expand that, then we can utilize their expertise in operating residence halls, their residence assistants, their hall director, the cafeteria, kind of all of those pieces that need to be part of a residential experience. And in fact, we've involved our conversation around learning communities, because over at the ICC, there are a number of learning communities. And we've also talked about how we can do that for international students, to attract international students, because as you all well know, international students pay a higher rate, as do out-of-state students, to come to the school. So all interesting comments, but you have to be pretty sure that the data that you have means that you're going to be able to attract a population. The nice thing about the reserve placement program is students who don't immediately get into UMass Lowell are offered this other option, because what they find is they lose some of their students over the course of the spring. No surprise there, right? So it's a program that's designed for attrition. So that way, if we have 20 engineers that are kind of in the hopper here that didn't get accepted immediately at UMass Lowell, but they're told to come to Middlesex and do a full semester and to prove themselves academically, they will engage with the institution, both institutions. It's a short walk across that bridge to get to our classes. And it's a real opportunity for them to be card-carrying members of two institutions with all the resources that are available. So it's a very small gamble for us and a really big win for the university. And what we found is that a lot of students are smart enough to not just come for a semester, but that they actually will come for a longer period of time and stay with us a lot longer than that one semester that's part of the program. But the expansion of that program would take a lot of work and a lot of development. And so it's something that we've talked about. It's something that we have recently discussed with the chancellor and with the associate provost. And it's certainly in the mix, but it's going to require some investment in terms of our partnership with UMass Lowell. And so it's, and UMass Lowell, while it is a wonderful partner, is also a challenging partner. There are challenges to doing that well and to doing it right. And they also have had a lot of shakeup in their staffing over the last few years as well, and trying to align how we make sure that we have the right people around the table. But thank you for that reminder. And it's a good note, Arlene, for you and I to add that to our mix of expansion of the RPP program in our conversations with Julie and with Joe. Great question.
Next question comes from Jill Keller. Thanks for the work that has been done in providing more food options on both campuses for our students. Is the intention to eventually lengthen the cafe's hours past 1 p.m. to encourage more students to stay on campus longer into the day?
That is really up to all of you. No, you're not going to like that answer. But if you go buy a cup of coffee, if you use the cafeteria, if you tell students to do the same, then they will stay. It's a business model, right? When a third-party vendor is running your cafeteria, which it took us a long time to find those individuals, we want to make sure that those vendors that are working out of our kitchens are getting foot traffic. And you can all play a role in that. And if that happens, the answer is yes. Those partners are very interested in working in those are beautiful kitchens. They know that they can operate, they can do the catering that we need. Which has been really successful with our caterer and our new partner in Bedford. And we've seen both with the coffee mill and with the spice that we have been able to move forward with that. And I think they're very interested. In fact, just had a conversation with owner down in Bedford the other day about, you know, when we expand, we're going to put some cafe tables here. And so they're very interested in the business model that allows them to expand. What I'm happy about is we used a lot of our HERF money to invest in faculty and online courses, et cetera, and we didn't invest it in food service. You know, some of these institutions were spending $250,000, $300,000 to keep their food service alive during this time. And now they're trying to figure out how do they continue to do that? How can they sustain that now that they only have, you know, maybe half or sometimes, you know, less than half of their population coming on campus. So building the schedule that puts more face-to-face, being more intentional about that on both campuses so that we have a critical mass, identifying when those times are so that we can really support the food needs of students, balancing that with what we're doing, the tremendous work we're doing with food insecurity from Jonathan Crockett's area and the lounges and the food pantries. So it's going to be a dance. But what I can tell you is all of you can help us by using those cafeteria services, by buying a lunch or buying a cup of coffee every now and then over there, sending students over, helping us market the fact that it is there, because those two vendors want to stay and want to be part of the college community. And the more business they have, the more likely it is that we'll be able to expand and have them stay. It's a great question. Always comes down to food and coffee.
There's nothing else in chat at the moment, but everyone, please don't be shy. Just raise your little emoji hand and we will call on you. Jessica.
Hi, President Sisson. I'm just wondering if there's any discussion at the President's Council level about the COVID vaccine mandate.
Sure. You want to talk statewide, Jessica, or locally? And
either one that would apply, because the reason I'm asking is we've had some veteran students that unfortunately are taking huge financial hits because they're not vaccinated. And I'm just wondering if there's any talk down the road of lifting that, or if that's going to be part of the culture of the state community colleges, Massachusetts community colleges.
It's interesting because at 4 o'clock today, that is one of the agenda items that the presidents have on their agenda to discuss. We've been talking about the impact of the COVID vaccine on enrollment. Some institutions have felt that more intensely than others, as Scott sort of outlined in his briefing about enrollment. This institution did an amazing job of working with the technology, of getting students to upload their cards, of getting students registered and following up. And I think we are moving into a different time, Jessica, as you well know, from pandemic to endemic. Our goal when we originally set that obligation at all 15 of the community colleges was, one, to do it across all of them. So the people at Northern Essex or at North Shore, if they were taking a course here, it wasn't being handled differently somewhere else. So the students wouldn't just go escape to different places. We have all handled it with the same kind of parameters, essentially worked at the same process for accommodations, although that's been slightly different. But more importantly, we need to do everything we can to continue to keep the campus safe. Now, we know that there's some herd immunity that happens over time. Very few people that you might be interacting with have not had COVID, right? Some of us have had it more than once, lucky us. So what ends up happening is that immunity continues to build, and the CDC continues to give us guidelines about that. And that's all of the science that we are discussing now about whether or not that COVID vaccine mandate will occur in the future. I think one of those things that you have to understand is that when you set this kind of mandate, you can't just automatically lift it overnight without a lot of discussion about making sure that all of the essential reasons that it was put in place are going to be part of the discussion going forward. So I'm hopeful that there'll be a robust discussion. Remember, it will be the 15 community colleges making that determination together. And then as that progresses, Jessica, I'm happy to share with all of you some of those conversations, but I would encourage all of you to do as much reading as you can about this, to visit the CDC website about your own vaccination, for us to continue to support some of that work here. And I think the most important thing is that it's a good conversation for all of you to have amongst yourselves about sort of the world that is unvaccinated, the people that are unvaccinated, and the behaviors that we saw when we first went into this pandemic, both at this institution and across the country, right? And those behaviors have changed, right? But there are still some folks that are concerned about it or that have, so I think it's a matter of open dialogue about this. We'll probably at some point, once the presidents have had some conversation, bring the emergency management team back together to have a distinctive conversation about if we were to lift the mandate, what would that mean? And so there's a lot of ifs in this and a lot of scenario playing that has to happen. But I'm really encouraged by the numbers of people who have gone through and devoted themselves to the process of being vaccinated, the number of students who've continued to be registered at this and other institutions. And I think that, again, kudos to the institution and to everyone else who went above and beyond to create safe environments and at the same time provide opportunities for students to register. So in the future, this may all change. Right now, it's just in discussion, but I'm hoping that by later in the spring semester, I'll have more to report about some of those conversations.
Thanks, Phil and Jessica. We have a question in the chat from Wendy Kajikian. Hi, this has been very helpful information. How would we move towards a Northeastern model by major?
Oh, well, we've already, I mean, to some degree, the idea is, for those of you who are unfamiliar, anyone who wants to send their son or daughter to Northeastern has changed sort of its model a long time. Not only do they use a quarter model, that's part of the way they operate their schedule, but more importantly, that students, most of the time fairly affluent students, get an opportunity to actually try a couple of different internships on for size while they're there. So it's a movement of going to school, then going to an internship and back and forth. So it's not a pure Northeastern model. But the idea is that Northeastern is committed not only to your academic excellence and you're getting all of the background and skills and that you need to be successful in a discipline or an academic major or a career. They are very focused on making sure that if you come to Northeastern, there'll be a job for you at the end of that. And many families have gambled on the fact that if you send your son or daughter to Northeastern, they're going to have enough external experiences with industry partners that someone's going to say, I need to hire that kid. I need to make sure that that person has a job. I see something in that internship experience that means that that person is of value and needs to be hired in the future. Or they have had enough experience, work experience on their resume that allow, especially connected to their major, that allows them to be able to come out with a degree and an opportunity to get a job in a very, very competitive field sometimes because they've got that experience. But that experience was baked into the Northeastern experience. How do we do that at Middlesex? How do we bake into it a career integrated learning model that allows people to go to school and work in a field that is of importance to them, at least in an entry-level position, with an industry partner that's going to help them get real experience that they can put, not a couple of weeks, not a semester, but a year of experience that they then can use on their resume as a resume builder, and an opportunity to say, Middlesex is the place where you go to be able to do that. I can get my education and I can go to work and they're going to help me get a job and get connected to the industry I'm interested in working in, as opposed to the 3 or 4 jobs I'm already working to put food on the table for my family or to maintain the kind of expenses that come with a student who goes to college. So we know, you all know how many of our students are working. We all know all of the jobs that they have, and oftentimes those jobs are not in an area that they're interested in. They're in an area that's going to pay them a living wage and that's going to allow them to continue their education. So the idea is, let's stop talking about the fact that We are sad that our students are working. I suppose we could continue to say that, but the day is that we know that in order for us to attract students to this institution, they are going to need to work and they're going to need to make money. So if we accept that, and then we partner with industry to create those experiences, and that we integrate that into the rest of their learning at distinct points in a program that are identified by faculty that plan out the schedule to make that happen, then I think we've got a model, much like we have in biotech, that we've developed in IT. We have a model that can really transform what we can do to really attract people to the school. Remember, I did a session, and I'll do it again this next professional day, on uniqueness. What makes us unique? This is one of those things that can make us unique in a way that we would be able to compete on a level because we have opportunities that another school may not have invested in developing in the same way that we have. So Wendy, I don't know if I've answered your question directly. It isn't exactly like anything else. It's a different sector of the institution. It's a community college versus a four-year institution. It is a very new approach. And at the same time, it has attracted a lot of attention from a lot of funders. I mean, it's rare that a community college gets $2 million worth of money to develop a program. And in fact, to hire staff to expand a program that is still in its pilot phases. So there's a tremendous amount of interest, not just in the state, but across the country in this. We've had an opportunity to present multiple times on this particular model and the extensive work that's been done in biotech. Highly successful. So I'm hopeful that this will make a difference in when families.
Did Phil freeze for everybody? Okay.
Yes.
He's talking away. He's in the room behind me.
Angela, can you go check in on Phil?
That
Patrick
was a
just
great
went over.
answer. Thank you.
Well, while we wait for Phil, are there any other folks that want to get in the queue to ask questions or want me to read questions aloud? Just take this moment to identify yourself or type into chat. Marie put into chat that maybe we can use certain days like Fridays where students work at an employer and certain days for class. Arlene, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question,
Sure.
please?
Maybe we can use certain days like Fridays where students work at an employer and certain days for class. So as part of this learn and earn like model.
Yeah, I think if we look at biotech, we see how we've managed to integrate the student's work schedule with the student's class schedule. So Marie, that is certainly one option as we move forward in expanding learn and earn into other majors. I think the key here with the success with learn and earn and the uniqueness that the phrase Phil uses is, that a student is getting work experience early in their career here. They're still coming to school. They would be going to school part-time anyway and working different jobs. Here, they'll be able to go to school part-time and then be able to earn a living wage. He's back. Marie, I hope that answered your question, because yes, I think there are different models that we would need to use.
I just had the best 20-minute conversation with myself ever. I'm really sorry you didn't hear it because it was pretty good, but I'm really sorry. I don't know what happened. Thank you. Thank you, Arlene, for stepping in.
No worries. It was a great question from Marie about possible models with learn and earn in different areas where maybe certain days are work days, certain days are class days. And we talked a bit about the schedule that, for example, in biotech, where we organize classes around a work schedule.
Exactly. And it requires us to rethink and to be agile, and for us to understand that our schedule needs to respond to our students' needs who are working, especially if they're working in an area, to be able to establish a resume builder for their own program. So thanks for answering that question. I'm sure somebody did a beautiful job. Other questions? Okay, then. I think if anyone else has anything, I mean, we're here on Zoom. If you have any burning questions you'd like to ask beyond the conversation that we've had in enrollment, I will thank Scott and Arlene again. And I'll open it up to any other general questions that people that may have. I'll try and answer them since we have this time available. And thank you for your participation. But any other questions that anybody may have that's not on this particular topic?
All's quiet on chat front, Phil.
Okay. Well, you know where we live. You know where our email addresses are. You know how to reach us if there are questions. I had a great conversation with a new employee the other day, a couple of new employees, sitting at the Ask Me booth talking to students. And that conversation was something that's not easy. I've addressed this a couple of times about the institution, is that we tend to be, to some degree, a pretty gossipy place. I mean, I've heard a lot of things lately that I kind of go, wow, man, where did you get that one from? Because that's pretty wild. I mean, I think we had the facilities master plan people here the other day. And of course, there's 10 people walking around. It's our carbon neutralization, it's DCAM, it's the people from Sasaki that are doing our, they're crunching the data and looking at all of our physical spaces. And within minutes, people had all sorts of like crazy ideas, like, oh my God, they're here, they're measuring, they're closing the Bedford campus, right? Or there were some people that thought that, oh, my offices are all going to be moved. I think I've pretty been clear, once we complete a facilities master plan, lots of things may change because they need to change. But for the most part, it is amazing to me how quickly rumors spread at the institution. So I'll open that up to just say that I'm going to continue to have critical conversations. I'm going to continue to provide you with opportunities to ask direct questions. If it's a personnel question that I can't answer, I'll tell you that. If it's a question that I can't disclose something, I'll tell you that too. But for the most part, we're going to be an open and transparent institution that tells you what we can. So if you want to know what we're thinking or what we're doing, that's what these sessions are for. They're an opportunity for you to ask. If you ask your neighbor, there's a pretty good chance they don't know. Or they have a piece of a story that is not the entire story half the time. So what I would say is, while the gossip mill is fascinating and creates a bit of drama in all of our lives, because we need more of that, right? You can come here and ask that question and get an answer anytime. Okay, good. Beth, still silence. So I guess everyone's questions have been answered thus far. Again, I want to thank Beth for facilitating, and Scott and Arlene for not only presenting, but answering questions when I was off in a room all by myself, having a great conversation. I look forward to your continued involvement in these sessions. We will be talking next month about the facilities master plan, some of the data that Sasaki has identified, some of the things that we've unearthed in some of our physical spaces, and some ideas about plans for the future. If you have any thoughts about enrollment, increasing enrollment, ways that we can do a better job of making individuals that come to the school connected, have a sense of belonging, if you have any questions about any of that, please connect with us and connect with Scott and the Enrollment Working Group. I know they continue to do exceptional work to make sure that we manage the enrollment. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for participating.